And what's going up, guys? It's Anomalycyra with another deep dive into that strange thing we call reality. Okay, so I had a theory I wanted to talk about today. There's something called the happiness syndrome. Now, the happiness syndrome started right around, at least for America, we'll go international in 3 steps. So, around the 50s, I know, oh my god, history lesson. But around the 50s, during that time, there was kind of this washing that everything's okay, even though we all know it's like kind of the worst time in history. Just after the ending of World War II, which is around 42. Strange, 42. Ooh. But right around that, there had to be this thing of, okay, well, everything was terrible for so long. We thought the whole world was going to end. Now we've got to be super duper happy, and everything's going to be all right, and everything's going to be okay, and we don't trust this specific person, and then so on and so forth. Here's what I wanted to start thinking about. History repeats itself. Now, if just talking about what happened after World War II has a similar feeling to right now, it's because it does. Our reality is constantly looping. The only difference is each loop has 2 or 3 different variables. Usually it's insane leader, that would be the Hitler guy or whatever. Or it can be a pandemic, like now there could be some kind of sickness, virus, something that we were not prepared for in some medical scientific platform. There is just natural disaster, like droughts, no rain, things like this. Some things we might even have control over now because we can see clouds. It's not a conspiracy, it's just science. Please, someone inform these people. And we can get rain and things like that. So we don't have to deal with a lot of these issues in our reality. But this is why I strongly advise, if you haven't read about it or if you don't know about it, to really look into the multiverse. There are multiple universes constantly collapsing on each other, and you are the focus, so it's fine, it doesn't affect you, but they still exist from those particular variants of time. I guess we'll look at it this way. Okay, so your 5th dimensional self would be like how it looks like when you see someone looking into a mirror, that's looking into a mirror, that's looking into a mirror, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Try to pull yourself away from anything you've seen in the recent movies where they use quantum a lot, but they don't really explain anything to you. So we're going to leave those out. So, we can all love them. I'm a nerd like everyone else, but let's try to focus on just the actual science field and not so much Marvel and DC, which was made by people who probably didn't have that as a career. They had drawing as a career, and then maybe they got some ideas from scientists, but it's not the root of their identity. So we're going to go from people who the root of their identity is being a scientist, so they can explain to us better what that field actually is, or what it would make us feel like. We also need them to be empaths. So I'm very picky with who I take information from and relay to you guys. So one of the scientists I found that I believe was pretty empathic in the way he spoke, gestures himself, he did a really short interview on some random channel in like Ohio. I look at a lot of different news clips before I start, speaking and coming up with things for you guys. So he had an idea about of the multiverse, and of course he didn't say multiverse, but he said like how there are like multiple realities that we can be living. You can watch something, and then in that next moment, you could have sworn like all the stars in that show have changed, or little details feel like they've been edited, and then you start coming into simulation theory and things like this. Really what it is we have all of these realities going at once. That's why we set up structures of content, and not content like what you're used to hearing, but remember that we've made an illusional duplicate world for us to understand our own world. So when you do hear content, it does mean content. It means substance, something that's entertaining to you, something inside of you that resonates with you, or things like this. And it's so strange if you look at that too. We're going to dive deep into a couple of those things too. And going internationally, going back to history, where the happiness syndrome, and why most people don't trust happy people. And why I suggest not trusting happy people either. Here's my thing. I've been perceived as a happy person because I don't necessarily explain any trials I've been through or tribulations, or I'm not really a type of person who complains or this type of attitude. Really, I'm just an A-type personality, introverted, and just I deal with my own problems in my own space. And in that way, I feel I'm just more of a solitude seeking person, and then just an adult. So just when you're solidly, is that a word? When you're completely in your adulthood, leaving your childhood behind, things like this become easy structures for you, like boundaries, or saying no, or even being kind to someone who's extremely attractive without wanting to date them or possess them in some kind of way. I find that makes me uncomfortable. I would relatively say if you're extremely attractive and people meet you, the first thing they want to do is possess you, own you, keep you. And if you look at it that way, you're like a fancy bird or something that when people find you in the wild, they try to trap you, put you in some kind of cage with them. And I mean, they love you and they'll feed you and admire you and show you off to people. But if you're meant to be free and possibly with another brightly colored bird in your own jungle, then fine. But it gets really strange. It's an emotional trap. We're not talking about looks. So like you can be like really beautiful and be with someone ugly and they don't try to put you in a cage. So it's a different personality. Someone who you can have an extremely attractive person trying to put someone that to you, because I don't really like calling people unattractive. It just means it's not for you. But for that person, if it's not their look, and they feel like they could keep that person in a cage, we'll call that not theirs, they would still want to have that activity. So it's not a superficial thing. It's very deep ingrained in that person's mentality. They try to just hold on too tightly to things that you like. Like if you find a beautiful, I know everyone's heard about the butterfly, but what I would just say is like a beautiful flower. When you see beautiful roses or flowers and things, you know they smell good, you know they're beautiful. There's all these beneficial ecology that's happening where the plants are doing colors for you. They understand that you are more appealing to brighter colors and they want to be touched and moved so they can spread their seed. And all of that, like, wow, we live in such an amazing world we just don't pay attention to. We don't pay attention to like any of the amazing things that are happening. But if you see this rose and then you look at it and you decide, touching my hair, sorry. And so if you decide to take that rose in both hands and just smell it and grab it and pull it slightly apart and start folding it into your hands, and that would make the scent come out stronger. But by the time you were done doing all this deep feeling of aggression, pull, and rip, which could seem in another platform of view, because that's what we live in. We live in all these different layers. This could very well be a relationship. This could be your love of something. This could be a passion. This could be work. This could be yourself, how you are with your family, maybe how you build your own life, what you do about stress. Are you grabbing it too tightly and examining it, pulling it apart, trying to see each piece, and then opening, relaxing after you've gotten that it's an urge, really. So it's very chemical and carnal. Left in your hands would be pieces of this rose. From this beginning, I would say happy people are this kind of thing. Happiness is the rose that you are crushing to death in your hand. And in that moment, fleeting as they are, you can have that happiness. It's so beautiful. You can smell the roses. It's amazing. But when it's gone, it is disastrous what's left behind. You cannot chase it and grab it in that way. Happiness is a gift. It is a sunny day in a strange autumn time. You know, it's to be appreciated. It's to be celebrated. It's not something to be constantly chased after and dragged down and thrown onto yourself like some kind of tattered coat to protect you from the wilderness. You're allowed to not be in any of these complex emotions from one point to another. It's completely okay for you to flow between all of them. They all exist for you. It's another realm. They don't exist for everyone. This is the thing that upsets me with this type of teaching. And these people that don't understand the psychology and the scientific realm. They're really just the mystical and, fluff of it. To say a little bit about it, I'm sorry, some of it I do believe, but there is a lot of fluff out there. in this way, you need to understand that for everyone, they don't have that realm of emotions. It doesn't exist for them. And they're not a bad person. Some people are sociopaths. Doesn't mean they're a psycho killer. That's a psychopath you're thinking about. Sociopath is someone who just doesn't experience it the same way that you will. We'll put it that way. They will not experience things the same way that you will. Doesn't mean they're going to do anything bad to you. It just means they're not jumping for joy when they see a beautiful sunset. They just understand that it's a beautiful sunset. We would probably call them more like a logical person. Like I have some friends who are just like from Finland. Oh, I was trying to say Iceland and Finland at the same time. We got there. They have something where it's called, I'm not even going to butcher it, but like everything will be okay, you know, in Iceland. Just everything will be okay. If they bump into you, they can say that to each other. Everything will be okay. They don't say this, it's their language, of course, but I'm translating. A lot of the things I'm translating. I'm translating the universe, I'm translating the veil, I'm translating reality and complexity. I can see all of the realities we live in at once, so sometimes it's kind of complex for me, and I can see myself in the different types of realities I was in. I range from different, just everywhere. I'm across the spectrum there. I can see, I don't think it's past lives. I don't believe in past lives because I don't necessarily believe in, strange to put it this way, but I don't necessarily believe in death. Not on a mental frame. I believe that your mind continues. Just because we can't track it and just because we can't prove it doesn't mean it's not there. Everything is trackable. And really what I would say is most of the things in the brain are chemical. If we could come together with a certain amount of chemicals and electronics and some kind of, system to give us a tether, because we always need a tether. This is like how they always show astronauts walking around in space with no tether. We don't do things without tether. And what is tether if you don't know? The cosmonaut in me just is always thinking in my space self because, this is Anomalycyra. So in this very way, we always stay, it's like having a rope tied around you. That's what a tether is. It's not a rope, but this is a platform to get you to understand why I keep saying tether. Maybe let's just start learning what that means. In the way of how someone would explain electricity to water. Even though we all know that electricity is not water. They actually, if they interact, it's quite disastrous and deadly. In that way, so is everything that we're speaking about. It will be metaphorical, it will be meaning to something else, there will be multiple layers. For me, I enjoy conversation like that because I die a little inside with superficial conversations. Oh, how are you? Oh, well, I'm good. Oh, yeah, you're really good? Oh, yeah, I'm really good. Oh, well, good as good can be. Well, yeah, good can be good sometimes, but, it's good, okay. I feel my IQ getting lower. Not blaming anyone, I just think it's a practice. If you're out of practice, this is where you start practicing. And look at yourself as being like that loving, excited teacher. We're all that loving, excited teacher that can't wait to get that information out. But you have to make sure that you have a student. You can't just run in the middle of the street and be on your soapbox, screaming at everyone because they're just going to think you're nuts. In that way, you have to give yourself a way to say and do this, which what wraps us back around to happiness. If you're happy and you're really good in your life situation, or you're just a grateful person like me, because there are so many things that are not going right, so many things that are not going well, there are deaths, and I don't mean like in this world, I just mean in my own. No matter what time frame you're listening to this in, while I'm recording this, these are things that I've gone through. It has nothing to do with the pandemic or anything like that. It's like fires and all kinds of things. So for me, I'm someone who can definitely speak to you about solitude and isolation. That's perfectly fine, and you'll be okay. There are things that I know that are better than coping mechanisms. There are ways that I know how to understand the world and speak to you about it. So the next thing I want to start getting is questions. I want to start going deeper into like some of the questions that I have and doing some further research into them. Like I'm totally excited about ecology right now. So I get a list of like all the sciences and all the histories. And I know them all roughly, but I don't want to know them roughly and superficially. I want to dive more in. A lot of them I know like on a professional level and like, well studied past 10 years. So I do know them well than other people, but I'm a perfectionist. So for me, it's never good enough, no matter how great it is. Even if you're a rocket scientist, you could be a super rocket scientist, or you could build a new way of doing everything, and then you're that person. So in that way, I love that about me, because there's always a way to reach and reach higher and reach higher. This is what I want everyone to be doing. I want everyone to start reaching higher for yourself, because it's such an amazing feeling, especially when you don't feel great. This is the thing I get taught. Like, I'm looking at people who are just drop dead gorgeous, super amazing, their life's going well, and they're talking about stress. This is called not being able to see the world you live in. Here's what I understand. While you're going through all the terrible things you're going through, I want you to stop saying that. You're not going through terrible things. You are alive. And when you're alive in this world, there's a penalty to being alive. You took a sacrifice to lose all of those abilities from the other realms so you could have a body, so you could have time. Time doesn't exist anywhere else. You had to come here. And since you had to come to this realm to have time, you have to obey the other laws of this realm. After you leave this realm, you don't have to. But that's something you call death, which makes everyone that ever knew you really sad. That's the most we know. There's no proof for anything else. And then we know what we all feel collectively. Even if we start from when we're born, we understand there's something else. And that's it. For me, that's all I need to know. If you need more, you're a highly skeptical person, and this is more psychology-based, and this has nothing to do with the actual reality, which there are way too many, and you're not paying attention to most of them. That's the way I would like to track that down. So, when you try to chase happy, understand you are chasing something that doesn't exist, and that is chemicals in your brain that can be triggered randomly, whether it be with food, sex, joy, painting your nails right. Because we all know when you're painting your nails, you always think of something to do and you completely mess them up. Or if you're one of those people who like go and get your nails done, I don't know, because I just cringe at things that have been on other people's hands touching me. And that was before now. I have always been that way. I don't wear shoes in the house. There's just, I wash the walls in my house. I wash my ceiling. Like, I keep my house clean. And I am always shocked that it took like a life or death situation for people to become that way. I've been that way since like 13, and I didn't even get that from my own home. But I did always understand that, like, or my mom and my sister always taught me that, like, cleanliness is next to godliness. And then my sister's kind of OCD, so she would, like, really clean the bathroom and the floors with, like, boiling hot bleach water, and it would be a fight. Why is all this water all over the place? I mean, this kind of thing is fine. But then you go into it and you're just like, wow, look at, like, life, Now I'm sitting here like, I need to get boiling hot bleach water and clean the floors. She's probably in heaven right now. So I'm like, I always try to see, like, a bright side of it. I bring that up to say, we all have some type of anxiety, some type of pressure, some kind of coping mechanism. Let's just pick a healthy one. If your coping mechanism is that you're going to clean, that is okay for your life. It doesn't hurt you. What we want to fight are the coping mechanisms that are damaging to you, like telling yourself you're not worthy, saying you're not good enough, teaching other people to treat you that way. That's what the happiness trigger for me really is. You're trying to tell people, no, I'm happy. Everything in my life has been fine. There's nothing wrong at all. You haven't lived. Then, if that's really true, then you haven't really lived. And in that way, I understand why you're feeling down on yourself, because the point of living is that risk. It's that damage. It is all of those things that I see everyone complaining about, but that's what life is. That's why we came here. Not to suffer and feel pain, but to feel anything. Because in these other realms, we don't have feelings. They don't exist. Time doesn't exist. Emotions don't exist. Nothing exists. So anything here that's happening is on purpose, and we all want it to be a part of it. Just start tearing apart that structure and look at it. There are millions of illusions on top of illusions on top of illusions, and it's not anybody's fault. we need to stop blaming everyone. We are in a universe that constantly creates, and you, the listener, listening to this right now, you are constantly creating. Even while you're listening to me speak, you're having other thoughts. Maybe you're judging what I said before. Maybe you're looking down on me about something else, or you're feeling really inspired and empowered. Maybe you're just thinking, maybe I'm going to listen to some of these other podcasts, or you're thinking something, you know what, I should change my socks right now. There are millions and millions of little bitty triggers that are firing constantly in your brain. We would call them, neurons that are firing off, and the plasticity, the neuroplasticity that happens in your brain. You'll start hearing these conversations more. It'll sound like you've heard this before, and you probably have. Maybe in your other realm self that's already done this. The time frames do not link up. Each circle has its own speed and divergence inside of that speed and that circle. We'll get more to teaching about the time loops and reality loops and things like this. I don't want everything to sound magical, because it's not. But if you look at it this way, a beautiful sunrise is magical. But like a couple of religions thought, that some of the pagans thought that the Romans, the Greeks, there's a god over those suns. And now that we have science, we understand that it's a burning ball of fire and liquid lava. That's what it is. And we're actually rotating, and that's the rising look. It's so much better than what we came up with, right? Look at it that way. Anything you came up with is not really what it is. That is the most freeing thing I can tell you. And the fact that you're going to die alone, this might feel dark, but if you're listening to this long in, you're already in that mindset, and you are my people. The best part about knowing you're going to die alone is you can try to be as amazing as possible, because you know at any moment, boom, you might be gone, taken out of the simulation, into the next level of simulation. I don't think there's one simulation. There are multiple. You are in millions of levels down, or up or sideways. It really doesn't, the direction doesn't exist, because remember, 3D, you only get up, down, left, right, and in the center. You can't do any of the other directions. You don't even know what they are or that they exist. And the only reason that I know is because I was born on purpose without a veil, because I wanted to be able to teach and inform people about what they couldn't see in front of them, like air or oxygen, but that it was there. And it's for them. It's here to help you. It wants to create with you. And I hear people say words like, oh, you can call this God, or, the creator, or energy, or your angels, or spirit guides, or, I don't know, tarot, magic, or anything. I'm a scientist at heart. I need it to be quantifiable. For me, it's just physics. And that makes sense for everything. It's just physics. This is how molecules and atoms work. The electrons do that. I'm not mystified by them, but I do feel highly impressed by how well this whole system works. But I don't think you should worship a system that was created by something bigger, or is created through something bigger, and then that's created through something bigger. But there's not linear, it's a circle. Remember, everything is a circle with a divergent, meaning off of the circle we have shoots, but it's always a circle. And this is how you can keep yourself out of anxiety loops, panic attacks. I'm going to start teaching you about detachment and what it means to really feel fulfilled. For right now, I'm going to get back to you. And I hope you enjoyed our talk. And I can't wait till I chat with you guys again. This is awesome. And I really appreciate all of the love, all of the donations, and just you stay classy. We'll speak soon. And I have been Anomalycyra. Have been, will be, and always are. Night, good morning, and good day.